Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all to the second lecture of control system. My name is Engineer Jafar Ali. Let's start with the recapitulation of the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we have learned about the introduction to control system. We have seen that what is a control system and how it is used in different industries. We have learned about the evolution of control system starting from the early 18th century, and we have learned that how control system evolved in different and various fields of science and information technology. Then we saw about how and why do we need a control system, what are the main functions that control system perform that makes it so much necessary that it is a part of every industry and every organization nowadays. Then we looked at several examples of a control system starting from a human body to industry or any big organizations. uh, After that we looked over different parts and different techniques that are used to make a good and successful control system, and what are the benefits of getting a good control system, why we are in so much need in taking a control system to that much of importance so that it can be beneficial for us or not. So we have looked at several control system techniques have really put forward some great changes in the industry, from starting from the health, security, science, research, and every field of aspect of life. After that, we looked at over different classifications of control system, that how we can classify control system. We have looked over linear control system. After that, we looked over at non-linear. After that, we learned about open loop, closed loop, and several other classifications that are really involved in the control system. Coming towards today's lecture, so today we'll be covering a lot of initial topics that are very basic, but they are so much of importance that a control system cannot be understood without these topics. I have divided this course in three major chunks. In the first portion of this course, I will be teaching you how to represent a control system. This is very important and this is very basic. You need to learn about the representation of a control system. Without representation, without proper representation of any control system, it would not be easy for anyone or for you by yourself to make or modify another or that control system by itself. So representation of control system is very important. After that, after the first portion of representation, we will be touching the stability of the control system, that how we can measure that either the system that we have represented is stable or not. So by far you have learned about two major portions. In the first portion of the course series, I will be teaching you representation of a control system using different methods. I will be teaching you about 3 to 4 methods that how you can represent a control system in a differential equation, that is in time domain, in Laplace transformation, that is f domain or frequency domain, using block diagram, and if time allows me, I will also tell you how to represent a signal a system control system in signal space diagrams. And after that, in the second portion, I will be teaching you the stability control criteria, that how we can measure the stability of a control system. And in the third and the last step of this lecture series, inshallah, I will teach you that how if the system becomes unstable or it is unstable by default, how you can modify the system parameters to make the system stable. So these are the main three portions of this whole course. By the midterm, we will be covering about the first portion, if everything goes right, because the first portion is really wide and vast, because of different techniques involved to represent a control system. Now many students ask me that why do you teach so much about representation. The answer to that is that if you are working in any industry or any big giant organization, the organization has by far developed its own system. So if you go to that industry, you will not be able to make or rebuild a whole control system. They will not ask you to rebuild the whole system, control system that they are already using. They will tell you to modify that, to optimize or to further enhance the performance of that their systems. So you cannot tell them that you don't know about this representation, and and you want them to give you another representation, so it will put a really bad impact on your profile. And so to secure you and to save you from that embarrassment, I tried to teach about 3 to 4 different methods of representation of control system, because implementation for the first time is very low frequent as compared to the maintenance occurs a lot of time. And if you are going to an industry, they would not like to rebuild a whole system, they would like you to improvise or improve their systems, so you have the ability to understand their systems by their representations. That is the reason I teach a lot about representation of control system. Starting with the first portion, that is representation. Today we will be discussing about mathematical modeling of physical system, that how you can mathematically model a physical system. We will be taking three systems. First will be electrical, second will be mechanical, and third will be electromechanical. The reason because we are taking these three, because they are all interlinked, we cannot neglect either of them. So that is why we will be covering all of these topics. So after that we will be learning about differential equations, that how you can modify that mathematical modeling into differential equation in terms of rate of change of time. After that we will take that time domain and to convert them into frequency domain. I will tell you why we will do that. And after taking the system into Laplace domain, we will process the whole system as we will try to solve the whole system. And after solving the system in Laplace domain, we will be taking inverse of the whole system, and we will take that back to the time domain. After that, as we take the system back to the time domain, we will be using different partial fraction cases and the transformation cycle. Mostly system occurs and performs in time domain. We take the time domain system, and by taking Laplace we take the system to a frequency domain. Now the purpose of this is that solving a system in frequency domain is much easier as compared to solving that system in time domain, because the reason is exponential. You see that exponential is a term that recurring when you take derivative or integration. So that is why we take the system into frequency domain. And after solving the system in frequency domain, we take the system back to the time domain. And the reason why we do that is that the understanding of a system in time domain is much easier as compared to in frequency domain. I will tell you by example. If you take a system that is in time domain and you solve the system using the frequency domain methodology that I just explained, you will be seeing that by putting the value of just t, you can predict any value of the system at any given time. Or you can say that you will be able to measure a system in future, that how this system will perform after 10 days, after 15 days, even after 10 seconds, after 20 seconds, because this time representation help us to predict the future values. We will be covering some examples so that it will be clear to you. After that we will be learning about transfer function. Transfer function basically is a function that represents the relationship between the output or the input of the system, that how the input and output are relatable. And in the last we will be covering some examples of electric circuits that I just explained, that we will be covering electrical circuits, mechanical networks, and the combination of both of them. So starting with the mathematical modeling. Mathematical modeling is the most important and crucial part. This is the most important part of the entire design. I just told you that representation is the major task and the most important task, that is the part of control system. So for implementation and for analysis, you have to represent a system. That is why mathematical models are so much of importance. most of you are doing your final year projects with me, and you know that I have always asked all of you that start making the projects by developing a mathematical model. So you see, here is the reason why I told you that it is the mathematical modeling is a set of differential equations that represent the dynamics of a systems accurately. If it is not accurate, it should be more precise. Let's say if you have developed a system and you do not know about the parameters involved in it or the dynamics of the system, in future, let's say you have not taken the temperature into the account, and in future with the rise of the temperature your system gives you the garbage value, so that system will not be able to perform, or that system will not be useful for anyone. So that is why you have to develop a basic mathematical model, and on that mathematical model you will develop your system. And the reason and the benefit of this is by doing such activity, in the future if some error or some noise or some bad performance comes to your system, you will be able to analyze accurately that why this error is coming and how we can neglect this error, and how we can nullify this error. That is the reason the mathematical modeling is of so importance, and different analytical and computational techniques may be used for the analysis of this system after mathematical model is obtained. We will start now developing a mathematical model. So basically we can use these three techniques for making a mathematical model. We can either use differential equation, we can either use transfer function model, and we can either use the state space model. This is mathematical modeling. So mathematical modeling involves mathematics in it. So you have to polish your differential skills, integral skills in this course. As I have already told you that this course is one of the core course of your whole program, that is Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering Technology. Now, what is differential equations? You know that representation of a system in that with respect of time, rate of change of time, that is basically a differential equation. And how can you obtain this equations? This can be obtained by basic physical or natural laws. Let's say in electrical terminology you use Ohm's law, you use KVL or KCL or any other law that is involved, that is the natural law or physical law. And in mechanical system, Newton's law, gravitational law, these are all the physical laws and natural laws that you will be using to describe a system mathematically. Let's say starting with the basic electrical diagram. You see that in the given circuit over here we have an RC circuit that is connected with some voltage U and some output voltage Y. So if someone asks you to make the mathematical model of such system, you see this is quite easy. You just apply KVL. I have just applied KVL over here. So the voltage rise is equal to the voltage drop. This is the voltage rise and this is the voltage drop. We have shifted the equation on the right hand side. That is why the signs are opposite, and their sum should be equal to 0. And after rearranging them by using simple Ohm's law, I have entered the value of VR using Ohm's law, and after putting the value of E is equal to IR, I have got this equation. And you know that the current in a capacitor is given by the derivative of the voltage multiplied with the capacitance of the capacitor. So basically I have put the value of I in this equation. So the final equation becomes this. Now you see that I have already taught you that RC circuit is a first order circuit. Similarly RL circuit is also first order circuit. And the reason that why it is called first order circuit, because the differential equation of these circuits are of order 1. You see that the order of this equation is 1. This is the order of this equation, that is the value of derivative. Only one derivative is occurring over here, so the order of this equation is 1. That is why these kind of circuits RL and RC both are known as first order circuit. Now coming towards the second example, that is RLC circuit. So by same theory that we applied earlier, you can judge that this circuit will be second order circuit because this is RLC. And the reason why this is second order, because the order of this final equation is 2. That is why we call RLC circuit as a second order circuit. You see that the order of the circuit is 2. The highest value of derivative is 2. That is why the order is 2 over here. So how this equation has achieved? We saw that we apply KVL over here and the sum will be equal to 0. I have entered the value of Ohm's law over here. I have inserted the value of voltage of inductor, that is L di by dt over here, and I have kept Vc as it is. And the reason, because I have not changed the value of Vc, because Vc is our output. Vc will be our output. You see that? That is why I have not entered the value. And using this equation, because this is a series circuit, and you know in series circuit the current remains the same. So the current over here will be the same, the current which will be same the current over here, and the current will be the same over here. So that is why the value of current is taken as it is, and I have entered the value of current in these places with R and with I. And with R, when I have entered the value, inserted the value with R, you see we have got the equation with the term this. And when I have entered the value of I, so you see that here is one L over here, here is one C over here. I forgot to enter the value, that is okay. You can see that this is L, this is C, and this is double derivative, because one derivative is this and one derivative is this. So when I entered the value of I, basically I have applied the double derivative of Vc over here, and this Vc comes as it is, and this Vt again comes as it is. Now you see that this term basically is the LCD square Vc divided by dt, that I have moved over here, because this is the higher order of the circuit of the equation, and this is the value which is the order of 1. So I am putting the value over here, and the whole equation remains, other equations remain the same. And now I have got this equation, and by this equation you can judge that this order or the order of circuit is 2. So that is why we call this circuit as a second order circuit, because the order of this differential equation is 2. Now coming towards the Laplace transform, basically these equations are now being shifted towards the frequency domain, and for that we have learned about the different transformation techniques, Z transform, Laplace transform, and many other transformation techniques. But in this case, in this course, we will be specifying and we will be dedicating ourselves towards Laplace transformation. So Laplace transformation are used to transfer this time domain mathematical models into the frequency domain by using just a simple formula. And you see the formula of shifting a system into frequency domain is that you take the Laplace and in time domain, and the system goes into the S domain, and from 0 to infinity what do you do? You integrate the system from 0 to infinity and multiply your system with e power minus st, and this is the formula of Laplace transformation. So we will be using this formula for a couple of lectures. So f of t, let's say if the value of f of t is simply the derivative of any variable y, then the Laplace of that system will be the Laplace of the derivative of that function. And if you get the derivative of a function, you put an s over here, and Basically I have what I did is replacing the dy dt with s and taking the Laplace of y of t minus the initial condition of that. This is a first formula, or you can say uh, the first theorem of Laplace transform, that if you are using derivative of a variable, you simply put an s instead of d by dt, and you take the Laplace, but the Laplace should be the difference of the system with the initial condition of the system. So this is the first equation. We will be using these equations in several numerical problems that are coming forward. Similarly, if you are using if the system that you want to take the Laplace transform of is of second order, so you just apply the same technique and you see that this is the formula. You have to understand this. Basically what we did is, if the order of circuit or the system is 2, you simply replace the d by dt square by s square, and you have to do all the same strategy that we did earlier, and you have to subtract the initial condition of that system as well, derivative of that system as well. So these three formulas, 1, 2 and 3, we will be using these three formulas in further numerical problems. And I want you to learn this Laplace transform table, because these are the 7 basic formulas of Laplace transformation. You will be using these formulas for a very long time in this course. These are some theorems that are relatable to Laplace transformation, that is shifting, linearity, scaling. You have learned all of these theorems in the earlier courses like single system and many other courses. We will be covering, we will be touching some of these theorems in this course. Now let's get started with the Laplace transformation example. This Laplace transformation, we have asked to find the Laplace transform of this given function, and you see that the value, the function is multiplied with u of t, and you know that u of t is nothing but a step function which starts from 0 and goes towards infinity with a value of 1. So that is the one reason we will be taking our integral from 0 to infinity. And the second thing, that u of t will be replaced by 1. You see that we have not mentioned a over here. If we have replaced the f of t with this function, we have skipped the u of t, because u of t is nothing but 1. That is why we have skipped it, and we have multiplied this term with the whole function, and after that, we, as the bases are same, their power will be added. So we have added their power, and as a is constant value, we have taken it outside, and with the remaining portion, let's say, you see that this is the remaining equation that we have left with. We are left with from 0 to infinity, and this term as it is over here, e power minus s plus t into t dt. So this terms will be coming here. Now if you take integral of this term with respect to t, so you will be getting nothing but 1 divided by minus into s plus a, and the value will be the exponential will come again over here with the same power, minus s plus a into t. So now the remaining, which we earlier took the a outside. Now if we multiply the a by 1, we will get this a back back here again. And now if we apply the value of the integrals, that is from 0 to infinity. So if you put the value of t as infinity, e power infinity becomes 0, and if you put the value and again minus sign, and if you put the value of t 0 over here, you will be getting the value 1. E power 0 becomes, because this term will multiplied with 0 becomes 0, and anything power 0 becomes 1. So you will be getting 0 minus 1, that is minus 1 from this term. The result of this term will be minus 1. Now if this minus term minus 1 is multiplied by this minus term, so you will be getting nothing but a divided by s plus a. So this will be your final answer. Now this equation shows you simple thing. If you have any function which has a constant value a or any value, that will be coming in the Laplace domain as it is. And the second thing that you have seen, that anything in the time domain, if it is in the power of e and it has minus sign with it, minus a, so this minus a will be transferred into plus a in the denominator of Laplace transformation. Now you see that, let's say if the value of this function is replaced by 2e minus 2t, so the Laplace of this term will be equal to basically 2 divided by s plus 2, because this 2 will be coming over here instead of capital A, and this 2 will be coming here. If the value of exponential becomes positive plus 2, then this sign will be changed and this will become s minus 2. So this is the basic of Laplace transformation. Now going towards inverse Laplace. In inverse Laplace, you take the integral values from sigma in the imaginary axis, and you divide the whole time domain function frequency domain system over the entire period, that is 2 pi j, and this is the formula for inverse Laplace. Now let's go with an example. If you have given a system that is already in frequency domain and someone asks you to find the inverse Laplace of this system, you will be using the Laplace transformation table, which I have already told you that there are 7 basic formulas, and using by these 7 formulas you can easily judge or easily determine the value of any Laplace function and take back it to the time domain. So using line 3 and line 5 of the Laplace transformation table, it is here using these 3, that if the function in time domain is the value 1 divided by s square, this is not 1 divided by s square, so this s square will be take back it to the t ut. Now if I turn this 2 into 3, 1 divided by s cube, so there will be t square. If the value of the power of s is 3, so there will be t square instead of t. If the value of s of denominator is s square, so there will be single t, not square. And the fifth line, that is if the value that we already discussed, that if the value is s plus a, so it will be becoming we already did this example in the previous slide. So by using these two simple formula, I've got the value of this function in the time domain by simply taking this into the numerator, and you see that there is the value of square. So already I am putting only one t over here. If the value of this 2 becomes 3, if someone change this into 3, this will be becoming t square. Actually this is square, t square. If this 3 becomes 4, so this 2 will become 3. There will be difference of only 1. So using the same formula, we will be solving different examples. Now what are partial fractions? Partial fractions method can be used to find the inverse Laplace of a complicated function. We can convert the function of a sum to a sum of simpler terms instead of their multiplication. It will be more better if you look into the examples. Before going to the examples, let me tell you there are 3 cases of Laplace partial fractions. Basically there are four, but I have joined the last two because they are complex conjugate of each other. That is why I have taken only three cases over here. Let's start with the first case. In the first case, you see that this term is a complicated term, and you have to convert this multiplicative term into additive term. So I have to make this term and take it to some kind of this term. And why I am doing this, I want this to be in shape of this because it is more easy to take the inverse Laplace of such equations. We have already seen that you have to take the system back to the time domain to make it more representable and more easier to understand. You have to take such systems back to the time domain, and taking Laplace transformation of these terms is more easy as compared to these terms. This is not recommended. So you have to take this system and take the Laplace partial fraction and apply partial fraction over here and convert this system into such equation. Now coming towards the first case. In the first case, the roots of the denominator are real and distinct. Mean the roots, that is the value of value with s, this will be distinct. You see that the value of with s is p1, p2 up to pn. There could be any values, but these values could not be repetitive. If there is s plus 1, so there should be no s plus 1 further. There can be s plus 2, s plus 3, s plus 4. So this is the case where the roots of the system should be distinct and real. Now let's start with the practical example of this partial fraction case 1. Now let's start a practical example of case 1 of this partial fraction case where the roots are distinct but they are real, they are not equal, they are different. You have to change this multiplicative term into two additive terms like this. So for that you have to put some unknown variables over here, a1 and a2. You have converted this system into such kind of system, and this system will be valid only if you are able to find the value of this unknown variables. And how you can find the value of this unknown variables? You just simply multiply this term with both hand sides over here and over here with both of these terms, a1 and a2. If you multiply this term on both hand side, this will be cancelled out over here, and with a1 there will be s2, and with a2 there will be s1. And if you I have solved the equation actually over here. If you see that this will be the final equation that we will be getting after cross multiplication, and in this equation you can simply put the value of s to find the values of a1 and a2. If you want to find the value of a1, you will be putting the value of s minus 1 over here. So this a1 a2 will be cancelled, and you can easily find the value of a1. And if you want to find the value of a2, you simply put the value of s is equal to minus 2. You see that I have putting the value of s is equal to minus 2, and if after putting the value of s is equal to minus 2, this term will be cancelled because s minus 2 plus 2 becomes 0, and 0 multiplied with any factor becomes 0. So I will be left with a2 only, and the value of a2 by this equation, calculating this equation, becomes minus 2. Similarly, by similar method, if you put the value of s is equal to minus 1, this term will be cancelled out, and you can easily find the value of a1, that will be coming, the value of a will be 2. If you put the value of s is equal to minus 1, you will get the value of a1 is equal to plus 2. So you got the value of a1, that is plus 2, and you got the value of a2, that is minus 2. You simply put this a1 and a2 over here, and you see that you have successfully converted a multiplicative term, a single term, into two additive term. And you can and now you can easily apply the inverse Laplace. In the inverse Laplace, the remaining portion that was capital A in the previous example will be coming in the time domain as it is, and this 1 and this 2 will be going to on the power of e. So this plus 1 becomes minus 1 in the numerator, and this plus 2 becomes minus 2 at the power of the time domain. So this is the final equation that we got from the first case of Laplace partial fraction. Now coming towards the second case, that is roots are real and repeated. What if the values are real? You see that the values are real, that is plus 1 and plus 2, but the value are repetitive. The value are repeated. You see that this 2 is occurring twice. So to convert such system into additive term, here is the formula. You can easily convert this equation into this, and in this case you have to find actually three variables, the value of a, b and c, and by using the same methodology that we used earlier, we can easily find the value of a, b and c. I have calculated the value over here, and you see that this is the final value a, b and c over here. So after putting the value of simply a, b, c, a is the value of a is plus 2, the value of b is minus 2, and the value of c is minus 2 again. And by using the same Laplace transformation table, this will be coming in the time domain as well. This plus 1 will be gone in the numerator as minus 1, this plus 2 will be gone in the numerator with minus 2, and here is the, you see, here is the proper equation that this is becoming this. So this 2 will be coming here, and this is square actually, the reason that is why this t occurred. You see this t, because there is a, we have already learned that if you have a power, so this power will be subtracted by 1 and the value will be provided over. If there is 3, so this will become 2 square, but now, for now the power of this term is actually 2, so that is the reason there is the value of t over here. Now going towards the third case of partial fraction, that the roots are the roots are complex conjugate. So you see that in this equation the system is not the roots of this denominator is not real or distinct, but they are complex conjugate, because you cannot simplify this term. So that is why we use the formula of the third case like this: a should be divided by s plus bs plus c will be divided by the other term, that is s square plus 2s plus 5. You are actually dividing these denominators into a and bs plus c. Now simply find the value of a, b and c with the same methodology, and I have found the value that a is equal to 3 by 5, b is equal to minus 3 by 5 and c is equal to minus 6 by 5. By simply substituting the value of a, b and c over here, I have got this equation, and after simplifying this equation I have taken the inverse Laplace of by same transformation table, and I have reached the point that here comes the 3 by 5, because there is a simple s, this s will be vanished when it goes back into the time domain from the Laplace transform table, and from there we will be getting this cos functions easily from the same Laplace transformation. The 7 formulas that I already told you is really of great importance. So this is the basically the Laplace transformation cycle, and in the transformation cycle we take the system in the time domain, we convert the system into the frequency domain, and after simplifying the system in the frequency domain we take inverse of the system, take inverse Laplace of the system and converts the system back into the time domain. So let's do a quick example on a transformation cycle. We are given the equation that y double derivative plus 3 single derivative plus 2y is equal to 5 step function multiplied with this step function, and we have to take this system into Laplace domain. But as I have told you that you will be needing initial conditions as well. So it is given that the signal is basically u of t is 1, the y of 0, the initial condition of y will be minus 1, and the first derivative at 0 time was 2. So these were the initial conditions that are given. Now we have to take Laplace on both hand sides of this equation. This is the first major equation. So if you take Laplace on both hand side, 5 of u of t becomes 5 of s, and y double dot becomes using the same three formulas that we discussed in the first half of the Laplace transform. The third, I'll just show you. I'll just show you these three formulas. So now we are using this formula and this formula as well. You see here we will put the initial conditions. The y dot, this is basically the y dot of 0. So basically we will putting the values of these over here. So now this y double dot has become this thing. Basically this was that d by dt of y of 0. This was that the last term, and we have represented uh, this as y dot of 0. This was the term in the formula. This was the third formula, and from this function of this term you are getting this one. This was the formula, and from this you are getting 2y of s, and this remains y by s. And now substituting the value that of initial conditions in this equation, we are getting some kind of this equation, and after solving this further you will get this equation. I'll just go to the main equation. Now you see that after solving each of the term, in the last you will be taking y of s as common. You took y of s as common and left the other terms in the bracket, and the remaining terms will be s plus 1, and this is equal to 5 by s. Now in the end you just uh, take the whole terms except y of s on that hand side, and in the last you will be dividing this term on the other side too. So at the last you will be getting y of s, that is equal to minus s square minus s plus 5 divided by s into s plus 1 plus into s plus 2. So now you see that here is the term, and you will have to do partial fraction on this term, and you will be getting these three terms. From one term you will be getting these three terms, and from that you will be taking Laplace transform, and you will be getting the final value of this term, this equation. Now what did you have to do? Now what do you have to do? You have to take a particular case. For example, in this case, this basically case 1, where the roots are repeated and they are real. So you have to apply the first case of partial fraction to get the values of the three unknowns, that was a, b and c. This was your a, this was your b, and this was your c. You can apply any method to find the values of a, b, c, and you, after you got the value of a, b, c, you just have to take inverse Laplace individually of these three terms. So the whole question becomes a bit lengthy when you reach at this point. And now from this equation, this is the final equation, we have taken the inverse Laplace successfully, but you see what did we do in overall equation? We converted this system in time. The system was in time domain, but it was in differential time domain. So we took the system in transformation, and in Laplace transformation we solved the system. You see, we are solving the system for the equation. After we got the final equation, we took inverse Laplace of the equation, and we have derived the final equation in time domain. Now what is the purpose of this time domain? You see, from this time domain equation, it is very easy to judge the system performance in any time, given time. Let's say if I tell you that what will be the value of output at t is equal to 50. So you have nothing to worry about. You just put the value of t in these places and you will get the value of the output. Excuse me. You will get the value of the output. If you are asked to take the to find the value of output at t is equal to, let's say, 100, so you have to do, you are going to put the value of t is equal to 100 r in these places. It is very simple now to predict any future value for now. This was the last example. Transfer functions are commonly used to characterize the input-output relationships of components of system that can be described by linear time invariant differential equations. You have to relate input with output so that anyone can judge the system performance easily. If you do not have any relatable equation, you will not be able to judge a system performance, and you will have to perform actually system, and if the system is not performing well, you have to pay the cost. So this is a big disadvantage of working on a system without a given transfer function. And the transfer function of a linear time invariant system is defined as the ratio of Laplace transform of the output, that is the response function, to the Laplace transform of the input, that is the driving function, under the assumption that all the initial conditions are zero. Now you have to take the Laplace of output, and you, that is the response function, and you have to take the Laplace of input, and you have to do all the stuff in with initial conditions of zero. Now why is the reason that the initial conditions are zero is compulsory? The reason is that if you are using, let's say, electrical circuit, and you do not take the initial conditions as zero, and let's say there is a conductor and it has some charge stored in it, so the output will not be the accurate output, it will the manipulated, it will be the manipulated output. You will have to let's say if you have taken the output and it said that the current is, let's say the charge is 10 coulomb, and in that 10 coulomb there was 3 coulomb due to the initial charge stored in the inductor. So this you will be giving the, you will give the value of 10 to your higher ups, but in the future the value will not be 10 again, that will be 7, because the initial charge will not be zero every time. The initial condition will not be zero every time, will not be 3 every time actually. So you will have to judge the value at zero, judge the performance of a given function at zero initial condition. This is the general formula of transfer function. Over here you have some output, you have some input parameters, and you simply divide the output Laplace of output to the Laplace of input, and the remaining factor that you get on the other side of equation is your transfer function actually. All the things that will be over here will be the transfer function. In this case, this term divided by this term will be your transfer function. This term will be coming over here on the numerator, and this term will be going over here denominator. So this will be your transfer function for this system. You see that this term will be your transfer function. Now there is another topic, that how you can derivate a transfer function. We will be taking examples on this in the next class, inshallah. But for now, I'll be leaving you with just an idea of derivation of transfer function. If you have a equation that is in differential form, and you do all the same stuff that we did earlier, that you will first take the Laplace, then you will take the partial fraction case, if you want to take it back into the time domain. But before that, in between that, we will be playing our stuff in this transfer function. We will be taking the output
on the right hand side, left hand side, and divided with the input, and all the remaining factors will be going on this sides, and this side will be our actual transfer function. We'll be looking at some examples in the next class, inshallah.
So today we learned about these topics. We started with the mathematical modeling of a physical system. We moved towards differential equations. We learned about Laplace transformation. There were several really important formulas that we used in two or three examples. We have learned about inverse Laplace transformation. After that, we have learned about three cases that are used in partial fractions to convert the system equation of the system from a multiplicative term to additive term. And last, we saw that why we are using this kind of transformation cycle. In the coming lectures, we will be doing more examples, practical examples, numerical examples on the transformation cycle, and we will be covering electrical and mechanical methods. That's all for today. Thank you.